Welcome back, my sunshiny friends. How are we? Today, we are going to be jumping over and talking about something just a little bit different today. So this may not be for everybody, but we are going to discuss CKD, which is chronic kidney disease, and Zepbound and weight loss, and how for me things have kind of all tied together. So if this is not something you were interested in, I invite you to please come back for our next video, and thank you for stopping by. For anybody who is interested, let's jump right in and discuss. The two things do actually have a lot in common, and I will go through some of that as we go on. Specifically, all of the things that we're doing to try to lose weight and everything that the internet and people are telling us to do, i.e., drink your water, eat your protein, do all of these things. That's not the same for everybody, and that is why all of us here on YouTube always tell you to first and foremost check with your doctor, and we're going to discuss that. So hello everybody, I am Cheryl. This is my channel where I have been for the past 15 months documenting my weight loss journey with the aid of Zepbound. Zepbound is a GLP-1 medication, or the shot they're calling it, all kinds of different things now. But this is Zepbound. This is my friend. This is my bestie. This is what has helped me to lose, I don't know where we are, 68 pounds or something to date. So it is a pen that I inject once a week. It's got a little needle in there. I inject it into my skin, not on my hand. I either in the back of my arm, almost never, my stomach or my thigh. It injects the medication, which is tirzepatide, and it injects that into my body, which helps to suppress the hunger in my body and the food noise in my head. Makes me feel fuller longer, and it helps me just to make better overall choices. Okay, now with that being said, some of you have asked me recently about my CKD and some different questions. So I thought I would take this opportunity to kind of tell my CKD story and then how it relates to my weight loss and Zepbound, because it all kind of does tie together. So first and foremost, I have to say, I have been shocked at how many people, especially of you people out here, that have also been diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. Right after I actually was diagnosed, one side effect I've been having really bad lately from the Zepbound is dry mouth. And it has been really bad recently. I've been even chewing gum to try to help it. So right after I was diagnosed, my sister-in-law, who's also a viewer, hi, also found out that she too had CKD. And I was like, that's so weird. I didn't, I thought it was rare. And it appears to be much more common than I would have guessed. Serious still, yes, but manageable. So I will tell you how I have been managing my CKD. So firstly, how it all came to be. And I will try to give you the cliff notes. I've told this story many times. There are other videos in the playlist below. So long story short, back in 2023, I think it is, like the days and the months and the years, guys, are just all blending together. So my doctor had left his office. He retired. A new doctor came in. They assigned me a new doctor, and whatever. I hadn't seen a doctor in a very long time. So they kept calling and saying, you really need to come in and do at least a meet and greet with this doctor. You're not even established in this office anymore. You haven't been in a while. So I finally went into the new doctor. I met her, and she convinced me to schedule a physical, which I did not too long later, the summer of July of 2023. So I went to the doctor. I had my physical. She did blood work and all the things. So not too long after the blood work, maybe in August or so, because it was July or August when I first had the physical. I forget the days. I get a phone call from the nurse to schedule an ultrasound. And I'm like kind of half listening to her, figuring, I'm old. They're doing colonoscopies, they're doing things. I didn't really think too much of it. And I'm assuming she told me why, like what the ultrasound was of, but I vaguely remember that it was of my kidneys. And again, I didn't really think anything of it. So I remember going to the ultrasound, and I remember having the ultrasound and kind of watching the girl do it and thinking to myself, something is definitely up. They called in another person. They were both pointing at things. And I was like, okay. Now, I'm 50 years old at the time. I also know asking is going to do me no good because they can't tell me anything. So I get into the portal a few days later and look at the results from my ultrasound. And as I'm reading through it, I'm like, what in the... It says stage 3 chronic kidney disease was my diagnosis, why I was there for this ultrasound. And I was like, wait, what? So I call my doctor's office. She's not there. She doesn't call me back. I send her a message in the portal. She doesn't get back to me. I'm calling for a couple of days. I'm sending messages in the portal. So like 3 days go by and she finally calls me back. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I was on duty doing buses at the end of the day in the hallway at school, and the phone rang, and I just kind of knew it was her. And I stepped into a classroom, and I remember taking this call, and she was kind of annoyed, like, why was I calling her so much? And I was like, well, for starters, you haven't called me back. That's rude. And long story short, we go back and forth about these test results. And she says, wait, I don't know why you're so upset over this. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, you've had this for years. And I was like, lady, I would not be this upset if this wasn't new information. I had no idea. She said, well, it's been in your chart. So apparently my old doctor knew, it came up on blood work. He never told me. So I don't know how many years had transpired from the time I had first had the blood work that this came up on. I want to say it was like 2015 or something. So it was quite a while. So I scheduled an appointment to go in and see her. I go and see her, and we have a conversation, and she is going to prescribe me medication. So she basically says this could be a twofer. It could also help with the weight, because we had, like, at the physical, kind of discussed the possibility of like figuring something out. So she tried to prescribe Trulicity for the CKD, and that could also be beneficial for weight loss. That was denied. So I called her, and she called in something else, and I looked back in my chart and it's deleted because it never processed. I can't remember what the second medication was. Maybe Jardiance, I'm not sure. That was denied. Go lay down. So she put in for Wegovy. My insurance approved the Wegovy because at that point I was stage 3 obese is what my chart says. Cool. This is now October or so of 2023. And there is no Wegovy to be found. So I drop it off at the pharmacist. They laugh at me. He's like, well, I'll call you. They never called me. So a few months go by. I continue to get a little agitated. I'm continuing to call the doctor. She says, I'm going to try something else. She puts in a prescription for Zepbound. So the Zepbound she calls in for CKD, hoping it will help with my weight. And at that point, I'm like, I don't even care about the CKD anymore. Bring on the Zepbound. I'm starting to hear that like these shots are doing something. So it was February of 2024 before I got my first box of Zepbound. Then I met with her again about 4 months into the Zepbound to check on my side effects, to check my blood work and everything for the CKD. At that point, we begin discussing all of my other underlying ailments and conditions, and come to find out a lot of things that I had going on with my body for many years are side effects of CKD. Fatigue, huge side effect. And at this point, I am a stage 3B chronic kidney disease. So for years, I have had, let's see, I've had fatigue, muscle pain, joint aches, really bad swelling in my hands, feet, and ankles. Horrific. And at that point, maybe a year prior to this, or 2 years prior, I had, my chart is right over here. I should probably just look it up, but I don't want to be rude. I had an ankle reconstruction, and the swelling just wouldn't go down. The swelling was really traumatic. So much so that the swelling got so bad that it was blocking off nerves, and I have now nerve damage. I have 14% loss of use in my right ankle because the swelling got so bad that it blocked nerves. So I had all of these other problems and things going on, and I was being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and anxiety and sleep disturbance or something. I don't even know. Like all of these things. General weakness was kind of like one of the biggest ones. By the time I would get home from work in the afternoon, I would like sit down on the couch and fall asleep for half an hour before I could even get up and make dinner. And I had all of these types of things, muscle cramps, sleep issues. I was getting up 2 or 3 times a night to go to the bathroom. All of these things now directly kind of kick back to symptoms and side effects from chronic kidney disease. And I had years and years of not knowing that. I go on the Zepbound, and within 7-8 months, I want to say 50% of that has gone away. The swelling has reduced significantly. I'm not going to say completely. I do think my hands are still swell occasionally. My ankles and my feet swell a little bit, not even close to. I'll see if I have any pictures. If I do, I'll put them in. The swelling that I used to get in my feet and my ankles was unbelievable. It was really crazy. And a lot of that has gone away. Luckily, I don't get as much aches and pains as I used to, which thank goodness, because one thing that I cannot do being diagnosed with CKD is NSAIDs. So I cannot take ibuprofen, Advil, ibuprofen, or Aleve. I would pop Aleve like it was my job. And because I was always in pain, I had aches, pains, muscle issues, joint problems, all of this stuff. But once I started to lose weight, a lot of that kind of, it was kind of like something deflated, and like all of the pressure was started to be released. And the difference in my body overall started to really drastically improve. So the Zepbound and the weight loss has helped the CKD so tremendously. My EFG is now up to 60. So if you know, you know, but 60 is like, it's the lowest of like the good. So I think it's 60 to 110 is like a good normal number. So I hit 60 on May 7th for my last blood work. My EFG was 60. So that's, you know, the lowest of being considered good, but I'm not considered low anymore. So, and that's 100% thanks to the Zepbound. So this medication has been doing wonders for me. I am extremely hopeful for all of you that are diagnosed with CKD that may not also be diagnosed with obesity and need the medication for that. Studies have been being done over the course of the last couple of years. Give me one sec. And the studies have recently been completed, and the studies are all astoundingly showing that these GLP-1s are working wonders for CKD. Now we just need those studies to be like official and for the FDA to acknowledge that, and hopefully in the next year or two, put Zepbound as like labeled for CKD as well. Like once they did that for the Zepbound for obesity, a whole world of people were able to get these medications and it's done wonders for them. So I am hopeful for the time when that happens for CKD and this medication is approved for that. And then other people that have this disease will have access to this medication the way that I currently have access for a limited time, possibly. But right now I still have the medication. So that has all been amazing, fantastic, great for me. One thing I want to make sure that I emphasize is, again, if you have been diagnosed with anything and you are taking any of these medications, or you're on a weight loss journey of any sort, whether it's with or without medication, and you haven't had blood work, please go get your blood work. I am the biggest, I can't think of the word I want to use, but I am the worst offender of this. I'm the biggest offender. I didn't see my doctor regularly prior to learning that I had CKD and going on Zepbound. And now I see my doctor regularly and I have blood work regularly. But if you could possibly have an underlying condition, these diets and these things that people say on the internet, myself included, don't always apply to people with certain conditions. And this is why myself and all of my colleagues here on YouTube always say, I am not a doctor. I do not pretend to be a doctor. Please consult with your doctor. And even my doctor wasn't completely sure and made me see a dietitian, which I actually did do, because I asked her the question last summer, with the CKD, what does that mean for my protein? Now, we all know we go on a diet, we're taking these GLP-1s, and what are the first two things that everybody tells you? Well, three things. To be exercising, doing weights of some sort. I'm sorry, guys. It's really late, and I'm like, my words are just not coming out today. Water and protein, right? But it changes when you have another diagnosis. So people, when I was first put on Zepbound and decided that I was going to go full throttle with weight loss, with the like I've got the Zepbound now. It's going to help me do what I need to do for my kidneys, but I now have the golden goose. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what I can to lose weight. And, you know, you dive into the internet, and I'm seeing 120 to 150 grams of protein a day. And I was like, crap, there's no way I can eat that much protein. Like, I don't know how y'all are doing it. So when I had gone back to the doctor after the first few months, she said, I honestly don't know. And I asked her about calories, and she said, I don't know. So I went to a dietitian, and that the first thing that they, are looking at is, okay, you have CKD, underlying condition. That's the first thing that we need to worry about. And the rule of thumb for patients with CKD and protein is 0.6 to 0.8 grams of protein times your current body weight. So for me, that's around 91 grams of protein. At the time, I was 180-ish pounds. They said 90 to 100. So that's where I got my 30, 30, and 30 from. So I have been focusing on 90 grams of protein. That is for me. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's right for you. So for me, 90 grams of protein is more doable for myself, because when you have too much protein, that's going to help. If I have too much protein, that's going to hurt my kidneys more. Limiting my protein can help slow the progression of the CKD by reducing the workload on my kidneys. So the more protein I eat, the harder my kidneys have to work. So I have to make sure that I'm not trying to make my kidneys work harder. Okay? And the same thing goes for the water. So protein and water is all you hear about when you're on these medications and when you're on a weight loss journey, is protein and water, protein and water, protein and water. And I have to kind of tune a lot of that out. I have learned I take my water with me. I do the best I can, but I drink when I'm thirsty. So when I'm talking a lot, obviously I'm more thirsty. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not drinking water. Y'all know what I'm drinking. I'm drinking sugar-free Canada Dry. When my throat is scratchy and when I'm talking a lot, I need that carbonation to kind of like help my throat. But if I have too much water, people are saying your body weight in water. If I was drinking 150 ounces of water a day, then my kidneys are going to overflow with fluids. So when kidneys aren't filtering properly because they have excess fluid, the fluid can build up and that leads to more complications. And it can also lead to more swelling, which brings us right back to another problem and common symptom and side effect from kidney disease. So my rule of thumb is I take my Stanley, and usually my smaller one, it holds about like 20 to 30 ounces. I maybe drink half. I try to eventually drink the rest, and then I do bring something to bed with me. A lot of times it is it's the diet ginger ale that comes to bed with me because I get very dry at night. But the dry mouth with the Zepbound, again, is killing me. But one thing I have been doing the last couple of weeks is more melon. So I have been bringing to work watermelon, honeydew, cantaloupe. And those are really water-based fruits, especially the watermelon. So I'm still getting water. I'm just getting it differently. And yes, I realize I'm getting sugar, but again, I have to do things that are going to be more effective for myself. So I'm not even talking about sustainability and the long term of my weight loss, but sometimes I feel like my brain is just like because I have to know what's healthy. I have to know what has protein. I have to know what the sugar count is. But I'm watching all of these things to try to watch my weight and watch what I'm bringing in. But I also have to be careful of the fact that I do have an underlying condition that is under control right now, thanks to the healthy habits that I have developed and the Zepbound. But I also have to be careful. I do not want this to progress any further. So if I am trying to force myself to eat 120 grams of protein a day to hit a weight loss goal quicker, that's going to make my kidneys work too hard. And then before I get to 130 pounds, I'll be at a stage 4 CKD. Does that make sense? So I know I don't always talk about it, but I do always talk about how I need to do things slowly, and I want to do things slower. I'm doing it slow. I stay on the medication longer. I know what I'm doing. And one of the reasons that I do that is the slower things go and the slower the weight comes off, the healthier I know I'm staying. My kidneys are staying. And that's the last thing I want to do is end up on dialysis. When I was pregnant, it was even before I was pregnant with my second child, my oldest and I drove my grandmother back and forth to dialysis 3 days a week. We actually, my husband and I, moved out of where we were living. I was pregnant and moved in with my grandmother so that we lived upstairs from her because her health was ailing and she had dialysis 3 days a week. She was a diabetic. Her kidneys had shut down. And I watched that. And there was times where me and my 2-year-old son sat with her when she was so ill that she couldn't even be by herself in the dialysis center, and sat with her and just watched her blood being filtered. And that is not something that I want to ever have to do. And seeing it and knowing that that's the only real option other than a transplant, if you get that far, has really changed a lot in my mind. And it's something that I don't think about every single day. Like, I don't go about my day thinking, oh my God, you have kidney disease. Don't eat this. You have too much protein. Have you counted your protein? Don't forget you have It's not, it's just something that's kind of a habit now. It's all one. So the way that I handle the CKD and the way that I handle my weight loss on Zepbound are kind of all the same thing now. And the plan that I have put together for myself has been very methodical and very thought out with myself, my doctor, and 2 dietitians to get to a place where this is a working, long-term, effective way for me to live my life that I hopefully stay where I am forever. If I lose a half a pound every 2 months, every 3 months, which is kind of, I feel like, how I've been recently for the rest of my life, but I continue to be able to take the medication, control my protein, control all the things that I need to control the CKD to stay where I am, I will be a happy, happy grandma. So yeah, I think that sums up this extremely long video. But I did think that this was very important information. And again, guys, I am not a doctor. This is just my experience. This is things that I have been doing that have been successful. And who knows, in 6 months, things could change and my plan could change and my doctor could change all of it. I don't know. So for now, this is how, how I'm living my life with CKD, on a weight loss journey with the help of Zepbound. This is what I'm doing. This is what's helping me. I encourage you all to get your labs, keep up on your blood work, and keep your doctor's appointments, because I was the worst offender of that for probably 20 years. So that's about it for now, friends. I thank you all so much for being here. And if you did make it this far, go give me a sunshine down in the comments below. I'd love to know who actually could survive talking to me for almost a half an hour on this dark and chilly New England evening. Thank you all so much for being here. Go and hit that subscribe button if you're new. Thank you so much. Give me a like, drop me a sunshine down below, and I will see you guys real soon. Remember, my friends, when you can't find the sunshine, you go ahead and you be the sunshine. Bye.